Welcome to Kicking It Local. I am Johnny Kecko, and this podcast is all about talking to the local community in South Australia, the football community, where I chat to players, coaches, officials, everyone that's in between, because they've all got a story to share, and it is a great community, and we need to highlight them every single week. And today's episode, I'm chatting to a player who's involved with playing in the first team for State League 1 football, but also coaches the under-16s teams as well at the Adelaide Hills Hawks. Daniel Pauli, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure to be here, mate.
I'm looking forward to chatting to you, mate, because I look forward to chatting to everyone, actually, because everyone's got a great story to share. And I've spoken to some professional footballers that have played in South America, some that have played nationally in Australia, some just been playing over 400 games in the local leagues. But chatting to someone like you that's still in your prime, you're only around 27 years old. You played briefly in the NPL, in State League 1 for a majority of your career, and also you've had time in the State League 2. So you've been through all three levels in South Australia. So I'm looking forward to getting to see your experience in the football leagues in South Australia.
Yeah, look, I haven't got any great stories about being in South America, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I've definitely been around the trap over the years, so I've got a little bit to share, I guess.
And Adelaide Hills Hawks is what I want to chat to you about, especially because very first episode I chat with Gaz Von Duvet, your head coach of Adelaide Hills Hawks, and we spoke about the Hawks, that what it's like being involved in a club that's pretty much like a regional setup, but it's only half an hour from the city, the CBD of Adelaide. And for yourself as a player, you've lived in the hills all your life. What's it like being a part of this little community?
Look, it's a very different sort of experience, having played down in the city in the past in juniors, and then to come back up into the hills as a senior footballer. You really get a sense of community there. I look around at some of the players that I've played with. I've known pretty much my whole life. Players like Jake Leckel, I went to kindergarten with him, primary school, high school. We've done the whole thing together, and then, you know, we have a couple of years apart, and then we're playing football together, and we played together for the last 8 years. So even people like Daniel Pauli, I've known since I was 8 years old. But it really is a beautiful thing, playing for the region that you represent. I think we have a lot of benefits over more regional towns because we do have a lot of influence from players coming from the city, because, I mean, if you have a good culture going on, players are prepared to drive and make that trip down. So we've got quite a few boys that live down south that come up twice a week, and then for game days as well. So I think it's really all about the culture and what you build as a club, and that makes people want to come to you.
Absolutely, and that's definitely true. So I've seen a lot of your volunteers that you have at the club as well. They're just so hardworking, and most of them are parents of the players that play in your first team, reserves, and also the under-18s and all the other levels as well. But it's so good to see the community factor at the club, and it's very strong, especially with someone like the president, Dan Butler.
Yeah, look, Butts is huge for the club. He came in as the president the year we got relegated into State League 2, and he's just made a massive difference. He got involved, he got sponsors stuck in, and really pushed behind the boys to get us back up. And it's not very well known, but us as a club, we kind of struggle with finances. We find it really hard to find sponsors because it's a very AFL dominated area. So we don't really have the big bucks to throw around at players to make them come, and we really did struggle with sponsors for quite a few years. So having Butler on board was massive. Going into looking at other volunteers and stuff like that, you look at the McGinley family who live around the corner in Woodside. They're literally at the nest every single day, whether they're cleaning, Ads is always on the machine, running down, chopping up the grass, making sure the pitch is looking pretty. Benny Brindle and Anna. Benny's our goalkeeper coach and paints all the goals. He does pretty much anything you need, any hardware, whatever it is. Anna's always in behind the kitchen as well, cooking up a storm for all of us. It really is a special environment. And being involved with the junior setup, you really realise how much time they spend there, because you're there over the course of the week a lot more than what you are as just a player. So to see them there just as much, if not more, you really get an understanding of how valuable they are for the club.
Well, absolutely. And I want to talk about your involvement with the under-16s as well and the junior setup, because that's not many players choose to do that because it's a lot of commitment. You've already got a big commitment playing on the weekends for the seniors as well as training for the team as well. But then on top of that, you're going to train the juniors, the next generation as well. So there's a big commitment there, and a lot of players don't usually do that. We see a lot do it, but not that many. And I do definitely want to chat about that later on and also talk more about the Hawks. But before we get to that, though, there's a long journey before you got back to the Hawks. Hills was always in the roots because you grew up in the Adelaide Hills, but you started your junior years at Adelaide City. What was it like coming through the junior ranks at a club that's got so much history?
Yeah, look, so obviously I started all my grassroots playing at Stirling East Soccer Club, which was just like my primary school. But then when I was prepared to take it up to the next level, I moved down the hill to Adelaide City. I went for a trial there at under 12s. It was a really, really good experience. Straight away, I actually got picked in the Bs and spent the first, month or two playing with the Bs, and then I got elevated into the As pretty quickly. And the players that I played with in that team was quite ridiculous. So over the years I played there, I played with Ben Garuccio, Stefan Mork, Bruce Kamau, players that have blown up professionally, really. And you don't really realise the quality that you're playing with at the time. Like, we won the league under 12s, 13s, 14s in the A division. We made the cup final 3 years in a row, and you don't really appreciate maybe like what that standard is until you reflect back on it.
Like Stefan Mork, the most recent captain for Adelaide United, now playing in Japan. So you got some big players like that you grew up with as well. So
yeah, he was a good friend of mine, actually. We were at my 14th birthday party. I had 3 people there, and Bruce Kamau was one and Stefan Mork was the other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, crazy.
Geez, you need to share that photo, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look it up. Might be in the archive somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, that's the cool thing that happens through the game of football, because you meet people like that. Unfortunately, we meet so many different people in the game, and you see them when you're junior years, but you'll taper off afterwards, go on to different clubs, different levels as well. Is there any other experiences you had at that club that just have helped you to where you are today? I just think playing with the standard of players that you do, it really elevates your level. I had some really good coaches there. In under 13s, Ricky Petropoulos was my coach, who then coached me again in senior football at Metro Stars. And he also was my boss for the past 7 years as well. So as much as your relationships, they do taper off, there's some that they continually, you find your way back, and that's what happens in the football community. I've found a lot of the time, there's even been players that I've played against in the past that I didn't like when we played on the football pitch. And then at senior level, you play against them again, you have a beer with them in the club rooms after, you're like, actually, you're not too bad a bloke after all. It's countless amount of times that's happened, and I'm very confident that people have felt the same way about me, because, you know, when you cross the line, you're playing for your club, you're always there to represent yourself and be competitive, but at the same time, like, everyone's just good people, really. Well, absolutely. And I've seen you play for the Hawks. I've commentated a couple of your games, and I've seen how you play. You're like an engine in the middle of the field, and you're non-stop. And I see you get agitated as well, because if things, obviously if your team's down and stuff, you got the passion. And you can actually see that in you, that you care about the club, you care about winning. And I know a lot of players do, but you work hard off the ball as well to try and help your team, which is a characteristic that not every player has in them. Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I think for me personally, I've always had the mindset that when you're on the pitch, you should leave it all on there. But especially since moving to the Adelaide Hills Hawks, and like, this club has my family really entrenched in it. Craig Leith has known me since the day I was born. The head coach when I first moved to the Hawks, Juan Rodriguez, has been a family friend since I was 10 years old. And like I said, playing with people that I've known for so long, and this is my community.
I really I try to at least go that extra mile, and you see like what the volunteers do for the club. I feel like if you're not going to leave it all on the pitch for those people, then you're not really getting the job done. And it's not fair on the people that they work a lot harder than I do for 90 minutes.
Yep.
So just put it all out there, and then, they're going to be working hard for hours and hours to make sure that we have everything set up that we need. So that's just the way I've always looked at it.
That's a great way to look at it as well. And also your other junior years that you've went through as well was at Metro Stars, where you eventually got your debut, your senior debut as well at the club. What was that experience like being a Metro Star? Because you look at them now, they're a big club with Robbie Saracino as the head coach. What was that like, that experience for you at Metro Stars?
Yeah, so I moved over to Metro Stars it was under 19s back there when I was 16. Again, so that's where I got coached by Ricky Petropoulos. He pulled me over there. That was probably the most shaping part of like my football career, really. The first year I was there, the first team, reserves and seniors all won the cup. The first team was coached by Rick Sriracha, who is now the head coach at Adelaide Victory.
Yep.
And to get a bit of opportunity training with them a couple of times and just seeing players like Scott Tunbridge, who played in the A-League with Newcastle Jets, Adam Van Dommel, people like Lee Robertson, Daniel Godley. These are not only brilliant footballers, but brilliant people. And you see the way that club was run. The volunteers there were also fantastic. Every Thursday night they would have dinners at the club. They really promoted having that whole senior group together, whether it was the 19s, the reserves, or the first team, and it was a very welcoming environment. I felt really at home there. I played there with my best mate, who's still my best mate now. And yeah, look, it was just a really, really enjoyable time playing at that club. To get my debut at 17 was pretty special. I mean, I'm not going to lie, they had a few injuries out at the time, so that's how I managed to jump up the pecking order. But you take it when you get the opportunity, and it was awesome. It really was. I got to go over to with the team to Perth as well, with the senior team to play a tournament over there. I was just because Metro won the NPL that year, they played the NPL winners in Perth.
Yep.
And they took over a few young boys, so to go over there and being involved in that experience as well was pretty awesome, and it's pretty like eye-opening when you see such quality players and you're sort of floating around, and it kind of set the standard of, what my expectations are. Yep. When I came back to the Hawks, like, I want to be playing at that level. I want to set that standard that, everyone who's involved in the club wants to strive towards greatness, or like at least playing at a higher level.
And you did eventually come straight to the Adelaide Hills Hawks from Metro. You stayed there for a couple of seasons. What was that like to play for a club that was, after all that time being down the hill, through junior years and also being your senior debut at Metro? What was it like to finally put on the red and blue jersey? Yeah,
it was great. Didn't really know what to expect. I knew quite a few people there, so I was already feeling pretty comfortable coming there. But obviously, it was my first time breaking into a first team squad. Was 19 at the time. I played every game that season, so I honestly came in with the idea that I wanted to get in, make a name for myself, and try and get myself back into the NPL. But as time progressed over that course of the season, I just fell in love with the boys. I fell in love with the club. I realized that the community is just really important to me. To represent my community as well is hugely important, and to play around with players that I've known for such a long period of time, it was just brilliant, and it still is. Absolutely.
And in that period, you've been there since for a very long time now, but there was a short stint that you left the Hawks for, and they were in State League 1, I believe, at the time when you left them, and you went to the NPL. You got another shot in the NPL with West Torrens Brikalla. Half a season there. What was that like to get that jump up a little bit to a higher level for yourself and just test yourself at the level? Was it what you were expecting for yourself personally?
To some extent, I kind of wish that I had that opportunity maybe a few years later, because I wasn't really in that mental state of really wanting to push myself. I got the opportunity, which was fantastic, and like in retrospect, I wish I gave it a little bit more, but in that period of my life, I was more interested in, partying, having a good time with mates, and I was still fully committed. Don't get me wrong, every time I play football, I'm fully committed, but I didn't maybe have that mature mindset to take advantage of it for what it was. In saying that, being involved there, training 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week, during pre-season and stuff, I got a lot sharper. I got a better understanding of the game. I made new friends over there as well. It's a really welcoming, friendly club, but it lifted my standards as well. So also playing there with players like Ian Kamau, who was just a fantastic player. These are players that you're competing with to get minutes. It didn't really work out as much as I would have hoped to. But I came there to give it a crack, and you take those opportunities when I realized that maybe it's not as likely that I'm gonna get as many minutes as I would have hoped. I had to sit back and reflect. I played like a handful of games with the reserves, and they had a really strong reserves team with like a bunch of young kids coming up, and I just sort of looked at myself and I was like, look, what you're doing here is taking up the opportunity for a young kid to come and get their opportunity at a higher level, and that didn't really sit well with me, and I knew that I was always wanted and welcome back home, and I made sure that I left the Hawks on good terms so I could always have that avenue back. So when I reflected and I said, look, I don't feel like it's right me sitting here playing reserves. It's not what I came here to do. I made a phone call and came straight back up the hill.
And not many people would make that decision as well. So was it purely you that made that decision, or was there someone that, did you have a mentor or someone helping you, or was it just something that you just knew that it was right?
Nah, I just knew it was right. I came there with the mentality that I wanted to play as many minutes in the NPL as possible, and at the start of the season, I did get those opportunities, but the team went for a few games where they were losing, and I think they lost 5-0 to Adelaide City one week. And so I was talking to the coach, and he was still looking at keeping the same team going, and I was kind of saw the writing on the walls there. At the end of the day, that's football, and I don't really expect to, or didn't really expect to be getting selected over bigger names. And for me, it's always been about, obviously trying to play at the highest level you can, but also it's important to play somewhere where you're valued and somewhere where you can see value in,
Absolutely. And you made your move back to the Adelaide Hills Hawks. Unfortunately, the timing wasn't the best because you were in NPL with West Torrens Brikalla, and you went back to the Hawks, who were in State League 1. But unfortunately, that was the year they got relegated into the State League 2. So for you personally, for the club, they got relegated down to the 3rd division from 2nd. But for you, you went from the top division all the way down to the 3rd within the matter of 6 months. What was that toll on you, like to go from that level of being around elite players in the NPL to playing against people that standard in State League 2 at that period in time wasn't there at all clubs? So what was that like personally, the realisation of playing against clubs that weren't as high as playing against the likes of like Adelaide City and stuff like that in that same league?
It was, look, the drop on a personal level wasn't as hard as the heartbreak it was to get relegated with the Hawks. That's probably what hurt the most, the fact that the club hadn't been in the 3rd division for a long time. When you got dropped into that league, it was really for the club like a make or break time. It was difficult to take, but this is why I love the club so much. When we did get relegated, only 2 players left. The rest of the team stayed. We stayed together as a group. We made a commitment as a team that we want to go back up. We want to get the club where they belong. And along with that came all the old boys like Daniel Butler, Doug Montgomery. They really old ex-Hawks players. They got on the board. And they said, okay, we're going to make a stand now. We're going to get behind the club. We're going to make sure that this club moves upwards, it doesn't sink, because there's been too many people that have put in too many hours to this club to let it fall to the wayside. And yeah, I was the first on board with that. There was no way I was leaving.
That's a great mentality, because I've spoken to other guests about that, how some clubs struggle because when they get relegated from NPL to State League One, there are a lot of players, obviously some chasing the money, some just loving the higher level of the football. So they stay in the league, unfortunately leaving the club behind, and that club suffers as sometimes. Sometimes they do good and get back up, but then there's all different highs and lows with the relegation, unfortunately. But a club like the Hawks having that core thing, it sounds like it was actually it ended up being a very good thing for you guys, because within 2 seasons you made your way back up. But what does we see it as being relegated? You're playing in a different league. You're dropped to a lower level. But as a club and also as players, what are the changes that actually happen to the club? Because there's a lot more that's put on the club than what we see on the outside. So can you give us a little bit of an insight of what it's actually like for a club to be relegated?
Yeah, look, when it's a club that you love, and I look around that room when we did get relegated, there was so many people that absolutely gutted. It meant more than just a relegation, like, oh, I'm going to have to find a new club, or I'm going to have to get paid somewhere else, or something like that. There were people, majority of the people in that room were gutted. And the changes that led from that, Craig Leith came back as our head coach, who is pretty much Mr. Hawk. He's been there since the start. Has coached juniors for years. He's coached kids that have come all the way up from under 8s into the first team. So what we found is the community really, really got behind one another. So that's the changes that we made. On a personal level, for me, that was probably that age where the maturity really came in. I said, I don't want to be playing in State League 2. I haven't really been taking my fitness that seriously. I haven't been dieting overly well over like the last few years. I've just been playing at a standard level that I knew was reasonable, but I knew that I could be better, and I wanted to be better for the club. And I think a lot of people had that mentality as well, rather than moving on or like getting their heads down and giving up. It was, okay, let's take a step up and let's really give it a crack. And that first year as well, we came second by goal difference, which meant we had to go into the knockout in the finals, and then lost our qualifying final at home to Adelaide Victory. That was probably as heartbreaking as it was when we got relegated, because we were so close, but yet so far away. And then the second season, obviously, I think we won the league by a comfortable amount, 6 to 8 points or something, and then won the double as well. It really made everything a little bit more sweeter.
Absolutely. And you guys won the championship at Cooper Stadium. What was that feeling like, playing at Cooper Stadium? Because the last year, due to renovations at Cooper's, unfortunately, the games couldn't be played there. But you were lucky enough to play your grand final at the home of football. What was it like as a player? Because you may have played there during your junior years, but playing a game with such importance for the club after the many years of disappointment of relegation, what was it like to go out there and to win?
Yeah, look, honestly, it's one of my favourite days as a footballer, really. Playing on there, beautiful turf in the stadium, you know, playing with your best mates and getting the victory as well. It was something special, especially the way that the game went, getting up 1-0 pretty early on. Then towards the end of the second half, they scored 1-1. We're like, okay, now we're going into extra time. I think we had 2 players coming off injured within the first half. So I think one player got injured in the first half, and then we replaced him. And then that player that we replaced him with got injured as well. And so we're like, okay, we're really going to be up against it now. And then we pulled through and won 3-1. And yeah, look, that season of football was just genuinely one of my favourites ever. The celebrations were wild. The atmosphere was fantastic. We had so many juniors out there watching. We had so many parents out there watching. For me personally, like, most of my mates came out and watched as well, and I know there's a bunch of other players in the team that had the same. So I felt like there was a big portion there supporting the Hawks, and yeah, that was special for sure.
I was there for that game at Cooper's, and it was great to watch and seeing what the club were, because that was my first year or second year involved in local football, going out to games, because at the time I was volunteering at a community radio station in the Hills.
Yep.
And the two clubs in the Hills, Mount Barker United and yourself, Hills Hawks, were a big part of my time at the Hills Radio, talking about the games every week. So I was across everything that was going on. And so it was cool to see you guys succeed the way you did. And I do remember you sold me one of your the Premiership jerseys as well, tops as well that night. You were celebrating that hard.
I sold it to you. I should have just given it to you, mate. Honestly, everything that you've done for promoting sport in the Hills has been phenomenal, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, we've known each other for 4 or 5 years now, since you got involved at Hills Radio. I went on the radio with you back in the day. It's just been fantastic because, like I said earlier, Hills is such a dominated area by AFL, and to have someone come in with passion and interest in the sport and really want to push it in the area has been so special. And then to see you get your rewards now, you're commentating in NPL, and also got your own podcast, getting on bigger names than me, that's for sure. Marcelo Caruska this morning, I heard. Fantastic,
Hey,
mate.
2 legends in one day.
You flatter me. But honestly, what you've done for the community in the Adelaide Hills for football has been very special, mate.
No, thank you, mate. I appreciate those kind words. And for me, the Hills wasn't really an area that I grew up in, because I'm actually from the city. I'm from the western suburbs of South Australia, and also I used to drive up there because the opportunity up there it was great for me. But but now I'm involved in local football in South Australia, which is I want to promote that game, and that's what this podcast is all about. Because I helped the Hills, now I'm helping South Australia, which
You're
is
just a helper, mate.
Mate, I absolutely love it. But enough about me. Now talking to you about you helping other people as well. You helped the youth in the Adelaide Hills Hawks, the under-16s, because we spoke earlier how it's a big commitment to be a footballer. NPL, huge commitment. State League 1, still a big commitment. You train a few nights a week. You got your game on the weekend. So depending on the time, if it's a 7 p.m. game, that's most of your day. It's just taken up with football. But on top of that, you're coaching juniors. What motivates you to do that?
Honestly, for me, it's been just looking forward to seeing that next generation come through at the Hills. Like I mentioned a few times, it's really difficult at times for us to attract players, or at least big name players. So when I reflected on my time at the club and I looked down in the juniors, I really thought us as a club to succeed in the future, you really need to invest in the youth. And I thought there's no better way to invest in the youth than actually get involved with a team. So I've been involved with these boys since they were under 14s. I remember coming out and watching one of their games when they just had a junior day or something, and we came out and had a watch, and I saw this team play. I was like, they play attractive football. They play out from the back. Clearly, they've been coached pretty well in the past from previous coaches. The coach there at the time, Hamish Lewis, was playing in our reserves, and he asked me to come out and take a training for them because he had a game that night. So I took a training with them, and they just loved it, and I loved it as well. And honestly, I came to every single game after that, came to like a fair few trainings after that. And at the end of that year, Hamish quit. He said he just needs to focus on other parts of his life. And I got a lot of feedback from parents saying, like, we really want you to be involved with the boys. The boys really want you around. But with my studies and other commitments with working, I couldn't commit to doing it by myself. So I'm co-coaching with a guy named Nick Brook, and we've done together for the last 2 seasons now. He's been fantastic. I've learned a lot from him on a personal level, not just on a coaching level, but really how to work with kids, how to get the best out of them, and how to you know how I can be. I can be quite a passionate and emotional person at times,
Yep.
sometimes to reel in those emotions. And sometimes we catch each other reeling each other in on the sideline. But yeah, he's been really good for me in my personal development. And the boys have just been fantastic. I look at them like little brothers. Couldn't imagine really not being involved with them, to be honest.
Did you ever have someone like yourself when you were growing up at the junior ranks at City and Metro Stars, or was anyone like that you just aspire to, or?
Nah, not really, to be honest. At Adelaide City, there wasn't really any crossover with the juniors and the seniors at all. At Metro, there might have been a little bit more, but I was already in the senior setup then, so I didn't really come across it. I wasn't aware of it. But I know that kind of impact, what that impact would have had on me, would have been something great. And I'm not saying I would have been anything like an Adelaide City senior player dropping down and like talking to the juniors, but I know that the impact that it can have, the motivation that it gives to know that there are first team players interested. And a lot of my mates in the senior team, there's been plenty of times they've come out and watched games as well. So it really builds that connection. I've had the boys in the change rooms before the game, talking to the senior players, trying to wrap their head around a few things, asking them some questions, like really pick their brains. And I think what it does is it really builds the community, really builds the club together. And yeah, that's been fantastic to watch. People like Callum Hutchins coming out on a Sunday morning to watch my boys play and then give me some opinions is something that I really appreciate as well. Is
coaching something you want to do after football, after playing?
Yeah, definitely. That's why I'm trying to dip my toes in now, get involved with the juniors. I spend so much of my free time looking at different formations, structure, styles of play, really still trying to develop my own craft as far as like what football rules that I would have and what I like to hold to. But yeah, definitely there's a huge passion in that. Would like to coach senior football one day, but I think that right now I'm just learning the best I can and, you know, focusing on my own football at the same time. And like you said, like it can get a little bit difficult with the Saturday night game. And then there was a period of time where all of our home games were at 8:30 in the morning. So not really having much of a weekend, but...
So 8:30 on a Sunday morning?
8:30 on a Sunday morning.
And that's after a 7 p.m. night at the Hawks Nest.
So get home 10:30, 11, up at 6:30 the next morning. But, you know, it kept me on the straight and narrow as well. And it was been really positive for my own development, or maturity at least, to, you know, move on to that next stage of my life and say, okay, more professional commitment, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And with all that time that's consuming you with the football at the Hills Hawks, playing and coaching, you wouldn't have too much time for yourself, but you did manage to get out to some Adelaide United games as well for a bit of downtime. And you had your own cheer squad as well. And the weird bit about it is that you had the Izzo army. So at the time, Paul Izzo was the goalkeeper for Adelaide United.
Correct, yeah.
And you decided for some reason to create your own Izzo army for the goalkeeper, which doesn't necessarily happen for every goalkeeper, does it?
No, I wouldn't say so. Look, it kind of just happened. Me and two of my best mates were just sitting around watching an Adelaide United game at home, sipping on a couple of beers, and I don't know, I can't remember whose idea it was, but we just thought we want to go out and get involved in the football community.
Yep.
We want to have a bit of a laugh, be a little bit of public nuisance, have a bit of fun. So we're like, what is the most random thing that we could possibly do? And we're like, okay, you know what? Let's be the Goalkeeper fan squad. And so we dubbed ourselves as the only Goalkeeper fan squad in the world. We don't really know that factually, but we could pretty much assume that that was the case. We printed out little chants. We made chants to sing. I remember the first game that we actually went to, we didn't wear, so we wore bright green, obviously, because that was the colour of Izzo's kit. But we came incognito, just in casual clothes the first time. And we went over towards where the Red Army were, and we had a few beers in hand, and we had our chants, and we just started chanting a little bit. We had some very strange looks from people around. And we're like, okay, we can't really be on this side because, you know, the Red Army, they're too loud. We can't really put ourselves out there if we're just getting drowned out by the Red Army. So then we took some notes and we went back to the drawing board, and then next week we came back, we went on to the opposite end. We wore bright green and we started handing out our chants to people, which had a Facebook trademark on there that said, "Follow us, Izzo Army" on Facebook.
Yep.
And yeah, look, it actually took off a little bit more than what you'd imagine, to be honest.
That's funny. And I've actually got your bit of a chant right here for you as well.
Paul is the best keeper on earth. Paul is the, do you know what that's worth? Paul is the best keeper on earth.
There you go. There's a bit of a snippet there from one of the games.
Yeah, look, just
Did it get better than that?
yeah, look, that was after a few beers, leaving the stadium actually. So it was better than that. But look, really, we ended up just absolutely loving it. We had these boys that used to rock up. We had no idea who they were at the start. They just loved what we were doing, and they came and sang chants with us at the start.
Great.
Then they'd come back the next week, and they were all wearing fluoro hats. So they were getting around the Izzo Army as well. Like my mate's brother came, my sister came to one game. Like it got really. We had an army of about 20, 30 people at some games.
So it was a real Izzo Army. There you go.
It was a genuine army. One of my favourite moments was sitting in my uncle's house in Switzerland, watching the FFA Cup final when Adelaide United beat Melbourne City 4-0.
Yes.
And for some reason it was being played across Europe as well. So I was sitting there on the couch and I was just waiting, looking for the boys. And you just see the camera span across to like this little shroud of green in like the bottom corner of, I'm like to my uncle, there's my mates, they're there, and they're standing
great.
up chanting with serious passion. It was great.
That is fantastic. See, I love that type of stories from footballers, because even though you guys play football, you are fans of the game as well. And then a lot of you go out to games. Some are Red Army members, but yourself, you create your own army. So it's cool to share that on here as well. And we've got to try and resurrect it, but maybe with a Gauchi
gang.
Yeah, Gauchi gang.
We've been thinking maybe Gauchi gang, but I don't know. Maybe those days are past me. But but yeah, no, it was definitely. I think being involved in the footballing community is just awesome, and you have to get involved in whatever way you can. You know.
Absolutely, man. And I really appreciate you joining me. But before I let you go, got to do the kicking it questions. Every guest gets asked these. And who would you love to kick it with on a football park? Anyone in the world?
Would have to be Jordan and Shaqiri.
Nice.
Would have to be.
Any reason?
Well, my Swiss background, so he's always been my favourite player, and maybe he could teach me how to use my left foot.
Who would you kick it with? Because a lot of people that know you closely will know that you like to have a big Saturday night. So who would you love
Not anymore. Who
would you love to kick it with on a Saturday and watch some football?
For
Someone locally and someone international as well.
someone locally, all right, I'd have to pick my boy Callum Hutchins, because I sit with that bloke for hours and talk about football.
Yep.
So I think we spend way too much time talking about soccer. We probably need to start talking about something else.
Yep.
And internationally, well, we'd need a translator, but would have to be Lionel Messi. That's the idol, my friend. So
Nice.
have to get him on board.
It's ironic because I had Marcelo Caruska recording on the same day, because I record a few at a time these episodes, and he said the exact same one. Not Hutchins, but he said Messi as well.
Well, he's missing out if he doesn't have Hutchins on board. I'm telling you, he might learn a thing or two.
Anyway, well, thank you so much for joining me, mate. And I really appreciate you sharing your story, the Izzo Army, the coaching you do, and also what got you back to the Adelaide Hills Hawks, the area you grew up in.
Thank you, brother. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
The Adelaide Hills Hawks, Daniel Pauli. Make sure you subscribe to Kicking It Local wherever you get your podcasts, so you can get a taste of the SA football community. Plus, follow Kicking It Local SA on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss any of the action. See you soon.